Okay, example problem number 3. A cannon of mass 15 kilograms shoots a bullet with a mass 1 kilogram at a velocity of 500 meters per second. What is the recoil velocity of the cannon? So we're going to do this as a before and after. So this is a conservation of momentum. Before, we have the mass of the first object, which in this case is the cannon. It's 15 kilograms. And then we have the mass of the second object, which in this case is the bullet or cannonball, 1 kilogram. And the velocity of the second one, so the bullet is fired at 500 meters per second. It wants to know the recoil velocity. No, obviously the velocity of the cannon beforehand is 0, because before you fire it, the cannon's not moving. Alright, and I had that wrong, sorry. The velocity of the cannonball before is also 0 meters per second, because it is recoil, and in a recoil problem the total momentum is 0. Alright, because my mass times my velocity is 0 plus my mass times my velocity is 0, so the total momentum here is 0. So that means the mass after is still 15 kilograms, and the mass of that object is still 1 kilogram, but after, the velocity here is 500 meters per second. The velocity of the cannon is what we're looking for. So, if you look at the law of conservation momentum equation, m1 v1I plus m2 v2I equals m1 v1f plus m2 v2f. Now, since this is 0 and this is 0, then I have 0 equals m1 v1f plus m2 v2f. So if I'm solving for v1f, I'm going to move this by subtracting m2 v2f. So I have a negative m2 v2f equals m1 v1f. Okay? And then of course, to solve for v2, I simply divide by my mass. Divide by negative m2. Okay? So you have v2f, so the velocity of, and I did that wrong, I want to do it the other way around. I want to solve for m1. Sorry, I'm solving for this side. Sorry, it's been a long day. So I'm solving for that side, so I divide by m1 on both sides, and that gives me v1f equals a negative m2 v2f divided by m1. So my velocity of my cannon afterwards is the negative of my mass of my bullet, 1 kilogram, times the velocity of the bullet, 500 meters per second, divided by the mass of my cannon, 15 kilograms. So that ends up giving you 1 times 500 equals, so a negative 500 divided by 15 is v1f is a negative 33.3 meters per second. Now, that negative simply means it's going backwards, which makes sense, because if the cannon is recoiling, then it's going to be going backwards. The bullet gets fired and it goes forward, and the cannon goes backwards. So, there we go.